Today's video is about the main theme of the Book of Wisdom by Osho, which is deeply explained in this video.
Why does a man, surrounded by everything he thought would fulfill him, still feel an emptiness echoing in his chest? Why do our successes leave us haunted and our relationships exhausted, even when we followed every promise the world made to us? The answer is simple, yet deeply buried. We have been living as someone we are not. Not for a moment have we truly lived as ourselves. From birth, we inherit identities, expectations, beliefs. We become sons, daughters, students, professionals, patriots, everything but our original face. We wear masks so well, even the mirror forgets to ask what lies beneath. And somewhere in this performance the truth is silenced, but there comes a whisper, faint like a breeze through a closed room. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it just asks, who are you, really? And if you are quiet enough to listen not with your mind, but with your being, a door begins to crack open. That door does not lead outward. It leads inward, and what you find inside is not a better version of yourself, not a purified ego or a more spiritual personality. What you find is something utterly unfamiliar and yet deeply intimate. The watcher, the witness, the one who has been present all along beneath the noise. The ego has always stood at the gate, pretending to be the master, loud, busy, hungry, afraid. It feeds on control, comparison, validation. It is terrified of disappearing because it knows it is not real. The ego is made of borrowed thoughts and second-hand dreams. Let it fall, and nothing of value is lost. The Book of Wisdom does not teach you to refine this ego. It invites you to look directly into the mirror and see that the face you've been protecting is not yours, that what you have defended is a shadow, and that behind it, in stillness, something real waits. When you begin to observe the ego instead of obeying it, you shift into awareness. You take your seat as the seer, not the seen, and this small shift changes everything. You start to see the play, the masks, the voices in your head, the endless dramas as a theater. You are not the actor, you are the audience, watching, silent, aware. This awareness is not effortful. It is not something to do, it is your natural state. It has simply been covered, not destroyed. Just forgotten, and the ego, exposed to this pure gaze, begins to tremble. Its tricks fail. Its stories sound hollow. It cannot survive in the light of awareness. The death of the ego is not the end of you. It is the beginning of your truth. The mind, accustomed to control, panics at this shift. It wants a structure, a method, a goal. But awareness is not a method. It is not a technique. It is not something you do, it is something you are. You don't acquire awareness, you return to it. This return is the most natural thing in the world, yet it feels radical, because it goes against everything you've been taught. You were told to become successful, become intelligent, become spiritual, become enlightened. But awareness is not about becoming, it is about being. The ego is constantly becoming. It needs the future, it feeds on it. One day, it says you will arrive. Just a little more effort, more discipline, more achievement. And so you chase endlessly. But awareness says, you are already here. You have always been. There is nowhere to reach and nothing to become. This is not laziness. This is not passivity. This is the deepest activity of all the activity of witnessing, of being fully present to what is, without distortion. And from this presence, action flows. Real action, not reaction, not conditioned behavior, but fresh, spontaneous movement from your center. That center is stillness. From stillness comes clarity. From clarity comes compassion. From compassion, everything else is born: love, intelligence, courage. These are not virtues to be cultivated. They are the fragrance of being rooted in awareness. When the ego dies, you don't become empty, you become vast, spacious, silent, but this silence is not dead. It is alive, singing with a music the world has forgotten to hear. It is the music of your original nature, and yet, even this silence is not an achievement. It is not a trophy for your spiritual efforts. It is the residue of dropping. You have not added anything new, you have only peeled away what is false. This peeling is painful, not because truth hurts, but because we are attached to lies. The ego is comfortable, familiar, even when it causes suffering. Letting it go feels like dying, but once the fear is faced, truly faced, a transformation happens. You realize that what you were afraid to lose was never you. This realization is the beginning of freedom. Freedom does not mean doing whatever you want. That is still ego. True freedom means being unshaken by desire, by fear, by praise or blame. You are not pulled this way and that by circumstance. You remain centered. You remain whole. The world may call you selfish. It may call you cold. It may not understand this depth of stillness, but the wise know this is the only real love, a love not based on need or possession, a love that gives because it cannot help but give, it overflows. You may still laugh, still cry, still engage with life, but now there is a watcher within, a quiet flame always burning. This flame does not waver with the wind. It is not shaken by the storms of life. It is the core of your being, and when you touch it, even for a moment, you know all the searching was for this. All the pain, all the longing, all the mistakes, they were stepping stones. They brought you here to this very breath, this very stillness. There is nothing more to seek. The seeker has dissolved. Only presence remains. In this presence, time loses its grip. The past becomes a faded echo, the future a faint illusion. Only the now remains vivid, alive, immeasurable, and in the now there is no room for the ego to stand. The ego lives in memory and projection. It needs a yesterday to regret and a tomorrow to chase. But awareness is always immediate. It exists only in this moment, right here, right now. This is why the ego feels threatened by awareness, because awareness has no need for it. In fact, awareness sees clearly that the ego is the barrier to truth. It is the noise that drowns out the silence. It is the curtain drawn across the window of the soul. And so the moment you begin to watch, really watch, the ego starts to lose its hold, not because you attack it, but because you stop believing in it. You stop feeding it your energy, your attention, your identity. It is like a shadow disappearing in sunlight. You don't need to fight it. You just need to shine. But this shine is not aggressive. It is not a blaze. It is not a performance. It is a quiet, effortless radiance that comes from knowing who you are not and resting in what you truly are. And what you are is silence itself, not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness. A stillness that hears the world without being disturbed by it. A stillness that holds all things, yet clings to nothing. This stillness is not empty. It is full of awareness, full of peace, full of light. And when you live from this space, life becomes simple, not dull simple, clear, direct, unburdened. You stop asking for life to be different. You stop struggling to fix yourself. You begin to accept not out of resignation, but out of understanding. Because you see clearly that there is nothing wrong with what is. that the only real problem was your resistance. Ego resists, awareness allows. Ego controls, awareness flows. Ego divides, awareness unites. When this understanding sinks deeper, even your spiritual seeking falls away. You stop chasing enlightenment like a destination. You stop comparing your progress. You stop measuring your inner state. Because who is it that wants to measure? Who is it that wants progress? It is still the ego dressing up in spiritual robes. Awareness has no ambition. It doesn't want to be special. It doesn't want to be awakened. It simply watches, and in this watching, the watcher is revealed. And what a discovery that is to find that you were never lost, only looking in the wrong direction. That the kingdom of truth was not somewhere far away, but hidden behind your own thoughts. In that moment of recognition, something inside you relaxes. A deep breath you didn't know you were holding is released. You stop trying to be someone. You just are. That just being is not passive. It is not withdrawal from the world. It is the highest engagement, because now you act from clarity, not confusion, from love, not lack, from presence, not projection. You become a mirror reflecting reality as it is, without distortion. And those who meet you may not know what has changed, but they will feel something, a calmness, a depth, a silence that speaks louder than words. This is the essence of true transformation, not a change in personality, not an improvement in behavior, but a fundamental shift in identity from ego to awareness. And once that shift happens, even slightly, you can never go back fully. The illusion may return, but it will never be whole again. A crack has formed, a gap through which the light enters, and that light is you. The mind will still try to reclaim the throne. It will whisper doubts. It will craft spiritual fantasies. It will even pretend to be the witness. But the heart knows the difference. The heart recognizes truth not by argument, but by resonance. When you are in awareness, everything feels aligned, even the chaos. You begin to live from the center, not as a thought, not as a belief, but as an experience. And from that center, every movement becomes sacred. Drinking tea, walking, listening to the wind, not because you've assigned some meaning to it, but because you're fully present, and presence turns the ordinary into the miraculous. This is meditation, not sitting cross-legged with effort, not chanting, not withdrawing from life. Real meditation is the art of being. It is awareness flowing through every act. It is consciousness touching every moment. And Osho reminds again and again, meditation is not something you do. It is something that happens when you are not doing anything, when the doer disappears and the watcher remains. In this space, love blossoms. Not the love of possession, not the love of longing or attachment, but the love that arises from wholeness, a love with no opposite, a love that needs no object. It simply radiates like fragrance from a flower. Not to please, not to seduce, but because that is its nature. This love is dangerous to the ego because it cannot be manipulated. It cannot be controlled. It does not come with terms and conditions. And in its presence, all games fall away. You become transparent to yourself and to the world. There is a great vulnerability in this, and yet a great power, because nothing can be taken from you when you are not holding on. Nothing can be destroyed when you are not building illusions. You are simply here like the sky, untouched by the clouds that pass through it. This is what it means to live in truth, not to hold opinions. Not to declare yourself right, but to remain open, spacious, and empty of identity so that truth can flow through you unfiltered. And when you live this way, even death loses its sting, because death can only take what is full. It cannot touch the eternal, and you are the eternal, not the body, not the mind, not the personality, but the awareness in which all of these rise and fall. Knowing this, a new kind of fearlessness arises. Not bravado, not recklessness, but a quiet courage, the courage to be nobody, to walk the world without masks, to live without pretending, to speak without deception, to act without expectation. This is the revolution Osho speaks of, not a political uprising, not a social reform, but an inner rebellion. A rebellion against falsehood, a rebellion for consciousness, and this rebellion is silent. Invisible, it does not shout in the streets, it does not demand anything from others, it simply changes the very foundation of being from unconsciousness to awareness, from sleep to wakefulness, and once you taste this wakefulness, even briefly, it leaves a fragrance in your soul. A remembrance, a compass. You may drift, you may forget, but something inside will always pull you back to the center, back to the witness, back to yourself. There is no final destination in this journey because it is not a journey outward. It is a deepening into the same space, a peeling back of layers. Each moment you rest in awareness, another illusion falls away. Not with effort, not with violence, but like old leaves drifting from a tree, effortless, graceful, inevitable. You start to see life not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived. The need to control softens, the urge to analyze dissolves. You stop dissecting your experiences like a surgeon and start embracing them like a lover. With tenderness, with totality. In this embrace there is no judgment. Sadness is allowed, joy is allowed, anger is allowed. Nothing needs to be edited. Nothing needs to be repressed. Awareness is vast enough to hold it all. And in this space of non-resistance, even pain becomes sacred. It is seen, it is understood, it is transmuted. This is healing, not fixing something broken, but realizing nothing was ever broken to begin with. Only misunderstood, only misidentified. When you stop identifying with the passing clouds, you recognize yourself as the sky, and this recognition brings a quiet bliss. Not the excitement of a peak moment, not the euphoria of a high, but a steady, unshakable contentment. A joy that asks for nothing, a peace that depends on nothing. Even in the midst of difficulty, this peace remains. It is not disturbed by circumstances, because it is not born from them. It arises from the very core of your being, from the source. And once you live from that source, your actions begin to change. You no longer act to prove, to impress, to dominate. You act out of overflow, out of abundance, out of playfulness. Life becomes a dance, not a duty. Even the smallest actions carry a fragrance of grace. People around you may not understand. They may call you strange, detached, irresponsible, but slowly some will be drawn, not because you are teaching, but because you are being. Your silence will speak. Your presence will nourish. Your stillness will invite others to look within. This is the highest teaching, a presence that awakens presence in others. Osho never wanted followers. He wanted individuals aware, responsible, free, people who could stand alone in their truth without clinging to him, without imitating him, because truth cannot be borrowed, it cannot be second-hand. Each must discover it within themselves, and that discovery begins not with effort, but with trust. Trust in your own being. Trust that beneath all your confusion, all your conditioning, There is a clarity untouched, a flame that never went out. Sit with that, watch for it, not like a hunter, but like a lover waiting for their beloved's patient, gentle, open, and one day, in the stillness between thoughts, it will reveal itself. Not with thunder, not with lightning, but like a dawn breaking slowly across the sky of your soul. And when that dawn comes, you will laugh. Not because you've achieved something extraordinary, but because you will see how simple it always was. How close, how obvious, you were never separate, you were never lost. You were simply looking through the wrong eyes, the eyes of ambition, the eyes of comparison, the eyes of fear. Now you see with clarity. Now you see with love, and in this seeing, the world transforms not because it changes, but because you have changed. Your perception, cleansed by awareness, begins to see the divine even in the mundane. A falling leaf is no longer debris, it is poetry. The silence between words is no longer empty, it is alive with presence. A passerby's smile, a child's question, the rustle of wind all become invitations to return home again and again to the eternal now. This now is not a moment in time. It is timelessness itself. It is where life truly happens, not in the past that no longer exists, nor in the future that never arrives, but here in the breath, in the beat of your heart, in the space where awareness meets life as it is. You don't need rituals for this return. You don't need sacred texts or holy words. You don't even need belief. You only need the courage to stop running, to sit, to see, to be, and from this being, action naturally arises. Action that is rooted, not restless, creative, not reactive, joyful, not forced. You no longer live from obligation, but from inspiration, no longer from fear, but from love. You become like a flute, hollow and open, allowing the song of existence to pass through. And that song, unique to you, yet connected to all, becomes your offering to the world. This is the art of living consciously, not trying to be spiritual, not trying to be perfect, but being utterly present, utterly real, utterly human. Osho calls this the greatest revolution, living with awareness in the marketplace, in relationship, in the noise of the world. Not escaping it, transforming it from the inside, by being rooted in silence even as you move through the chaos. You no longer seek solitude to find peace. Peace becomes your companion, even in the crowd. You no longer run to the mountains to escape noise. Your inner silence becomes your shelter. This doesn't mean problems vanish. Life still brings challenges. Pain, loss, misunderstanding, they still arrive. But now they are met with clarity, not confusion, with stillness, not resistance. You see them as waves on the surface of the ocean, real, but not defining. You are not the wave, you are the depth, and from that depth a deep compassion begins to flow, not out of duty, not out of guilt, but out of shared understanding. You recognize the same struggle in others, the same longing, the same forgetfulness, and so your presence becomes a reminder, a silent invitation. Come home to yourself. And when you realize this truth, something shifts fundamentally within you. No longer are you a seeker. You are not searching for anything anymore. There is nothing to find, nothing to gain, nothing to lose. The pursuit stops. The game is over. The mind tries to find security in possessions, in achievements, in status. But these are fleeting. They rise and fall like waves. When you are rooted in awareness, you no longer chase these illusions. You find peace in what is, exactly as it is, in the moment, in the breath. In the silence, in that silence, there is no loneliness. There is no sense of emptiness. In fact, there is a profound fullness, the fullness of being, the richness of simply existing. You realize that you are not here to gain anything. You are here to express what is already inside you. You are here to be yourself, and that in itself is enough. This is the ultimate freedom, to be free of the need for validation, free from the need to prove anything to anyone, free from the shackles of the ego. And in this freedom you become an embodiment of peace. Your presence alone is enough to shift the atmosphere around you. You don't need to seek love, you are love. You don't need to seek meaning, you are meaning itself. You don't need to search for the truth. You are the truth already within you, just waiting to be realized. And when you realize this, a deep contentment settles in. You no longer need to strive. You no longer need to compare yourself to others. You are not concerned with what you do or don't have. You are not concerned with how the world sees you. You are simply content with being. This is not indifference. It is not apathy. It is a deep, abiding love for life, as it is not as you want it to be. When you are rooted in awareness, everything becomes an expression of love. The simplest things, the way the sunlight filters through the trees, the way the wind moves through the grass, the way your hands feel when they touch something, all become sacred. All are an expression of the divine. And so you begin to see that there is no separation between you and the world. You are part of the flow of life. You are not apart from it, watching it from a distance. You are living it. You are the experience. You are the witness, and the witness said, "This is the ultimate realization, to be one with everything, to live without the illusion of separateness, and when that realization dawns, there is a joy that arises from within you. A joy that is not dependent on anything, not dependent on success, not dependent on love, not dependent on approval. A joy that springs from the deepest place within you, because you have finally recognized your own truth. And once you touch this truth, you cannot unsee it. It becomes your permanent state, even when the ego rises and falls, even when challenges arise. The ego may try to regain control, but now you know who you truly are. You know that you are not the ego. You are not the thoughts, the emotions, or the roles you play. You are awareness, you are presence. And this is the liberation Osho speaks of. True freedom is not in having more, but in needing less. True freedom is not in becoming something, but in unbecoming everything that is not you. The ego is the prison, and awareness is the key that opens the door. And once the door is open, there is no going back. You are free, free to live in the world, but not of it. Free to engage fully with life, but not to be attached to it. You can enjoy life, but you no longer need it to be different. You can love others, but you no longer need them to fulfill you. In this freedom there is a profound peace, a peace that is not disturbed by anything, not by success or failure, praise or blame. You are at peace with yourself. You are at peace with the world. This is the truth of who you are, and in this truth all suffering ends. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you have stopped resisting it. You have stopped fighting what is. You have embraced the flow of life just as it is, and that is the ultimate wisdom. The wisdom to let go, to surrender, to trust. The wisdom to realize that you are not separate from the universe, but an integral part of it. The wisdom to be yourself fully, freely, and completely. And as you live this truth, you become a beacon to others. Without even speaking, your presence inspires. Without even trying, you lead. Because when you live in this truth, you are living proof that it is possible for anyone to do the same. You are the living embodiment of freedom, love, and wisdom. And in that, you become the light. This is the wisdom Osho speaks of, not the wisdom of the mind, but the wisdom of being, the wisdom of awareness, the wisdom of love. This is the wisdom that can change the world.